Hey everyone, it's Emily, and although I'm in front of my bookcase, this is not a bookish video. The light is just at least slightly better in this area than it is in the rest of my apartment, so I'm going to be filming this here. But I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about 6 of the environmental resources that I absolutely love and have been subscribed to or listened to for a while and just have found incredibly valuable. So I'll dive into a couple of podcasts and some newsletters and just organizations that produce some really great content on environmental issues in general and energy and climate in particular. So let's dive in. So I first want to talk about a couple of podcasts that I absolutely love. So the first one is called The Energy Gang, and they follow several hosts who have been in the industry for a long time, and they have an incredible breadth of experience, and they talk about a lot of different things. They focus on energy, as the name might suggest, and they kind of go into a lot of the nitty-gritty on policy and politics, and they just cover a lot of different topics in the energy world. And so that one has been one that I've really relied on a lot to kind of get down into the nitty-gritty. And I'll link all of these below, by the way, so just I'll also link the blog post that I wrote about all of these with a little bit more information and links to the show as well, so I'll link that below. So yeah. The second podcast I want to talk about is Political Climate, and this follows one main host who talks to two different people. So she talks to a Republican and a Democrat. So I believe the Democrat was the Chief of Staff for Energy Secretary Chu under Obama and has a lot of political advising experience. And the conservative that they follow also just has a lot of experience advising politicians on energy issues, and so she asked them about the issues of the day on climate change. They talk about different news and kind of how their takes might differ, where they have common ground, and they also bring in a lot of different guests on to kind of just provide more context and more background. And I really appreciate kind of getting a lot of different perspectives. Some podcasts and some organizations are kind of very hesitant to provide a lot of different perspectives on a particular issue, or just to understand different takes on things and provide different information that you might not see in your circle of information. And I really appreciate that. I don't always appreciate podcasts that kind of have like the Republican versus the Democrat, and can sometimes make that communication and that dialogue worse and increase bitterness between different groups of people if it's not done well. But I think this podcast does it really well, and they'll just talk about their sources that they turn to, how they're perceiving different things, and it's just a lot of fun, and they bring in some really cool guests. So yeah, love that one. Some newsletters or organizations that I subscribe to that have been super helpful include the Energy 202 from Washington Post. They also do a daily 202 that kind of just focuses on general political news, and they've got this Energy 202 that focuses on energy news, and they have one main story, and then they'll just kind of follow different highlights of energy news throughout the day, and they'll also pull in information from other sources that they have found really valuable for that day, and they'll put it all together for you. Really love that one. It goes in depth into that one issue, and those in-depth parts are incredibly helpful and really well done, well researched, well explained, and then they just provide sources for a bunch of other stuff that's really interesting. So really recommend that one as well. Another one that I really recommend is Real Clear Energy. So this is another organization that has a bunch of different websites. So they'll have Real Clear News, Real Clear Science, Real Clear World, and they've got, so they have an energy version of that as well, Real Clear Energy. There's basically just energy news, but they pull it from a bunch of different places, and they also write their own articles that kind of contextualize everything, which is incredibly helpful. And they do such a good job kind of giving a breadth of perspectives. Will be a theme throughout this video. But they do a really good job providing that breadth and that depth. So really recommend that one. Another organization that I really, really love and been following for a long time is Grist, and Grist does a really great job talking about climate change in a different way. I think it's kind of founded on the idea that communication principles need to be integrated into the climate space, and we need to talk about climate change in a different way in order to resonate not just with audiences that are already engaged and plugged in, but to bring in new audiences. And I think Grist does a really good job of doing that, and they have really funny articles, but are still well researched and provide really good information, but just talk about things in a different way. And they focus on making content shareable and something that you actually want to talk to other people about, because one of the important things one of the difficult things is trying to make information about climate change something you want to talk about with other people. So they do a really great job with that, and I would recommend you checking out Grist. And finally, I also really love Utility Dive. They take a deep dive in the utility sector, and they have a bunch of articles that go into the nitty-gritty of how the grid works, how the different grid operators work, and kind of how policy interacts with that, and what policies might affect different regions and different states, and how state policies might affect how people might actually be able to tap into the grid with alternative energy, whether they produce it at home or whether the utility sector needs to know this information. So really incredible source of information if you want to get into that area and understand grid and electricity distribution and how that relates to policy. So that's it, just a really quick video. This is not an exhaustive list, and I'm constantly looking for new sources of information. So if you know of other organizations or podcasts or things that you love to listen to, put them in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I love hanging out there. And again, as I said, I have a blog post about this, so check that out, and feel free to subscribe to that blog as well as to my channel. I talk a lot about climate change and environmental issues, as well as books, because I also love to read, so I talk about that as well on my channel. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.